Hey SB fam, carnivores, welcome back to the channel. It's me, Bella the Steak and Butter Gal. I wish you all a happy new year. Please do share with me all of your goals that you would like to focus on in 2023. So today's video features Dr. Mindy Pelz, and I think she is perfect to wrap up 2022 with because she is one of the lead experts in the health community on fasting. So in this video, she really tells us everything there is to know on how to incorporate fasting, especially for us women. Of course, I had to invite on my two fasting coaches, Coach Raymond Nazon and Coach Emily Harvo, to join in on this conversation. In our next 30-day carnivore challenge starting January 3rd, 2023, we will be featuring Dr. Mindy Pelz herself as a guest speaker. She will answer all of our questions regarding carnivore diet and fasting. And we will be incorporating a lot of the things that we discuss with Dr. Pelz into our weekly feasting and fasting classes within the Steak and Butter Gang. It is World Carnivore Month, so I will be also inviting on the creator of World Carnivore Month himself, Dr. Sean Baker, in addition to Dr. Mindy Pelz, Dr. Robert Kiltz, Dr. Sabrina Solt, Dr. Rachel Brown, and Professor Bart Kay. So if you are interested in a community to keep you on track with your fat loss and carnivore goals, as well as a team of coaches who will teach you how to fast effectively and safely so that you can burn fat, heal your hormones, and feel amazing, come join the next 30-day carnivore challenge. Go to the URL shown on the screen, sbgmeetup.com, or click the link down below in the description box for a clickable link. I'm also excited to be able to collaborate with Thrive Market, and I'll be sharing my favorite things from them later in this video. Hi, Dr. Pelz. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so excited to be here and have this discussion. I'm really a woman on a mission trying to help women understand where fasting and food and all our lifestyles really fit into our hormonal flow.
Emily, Raymond, and I, we are huge fans of your hard work, your videos, and your new book is out. By the way, I have it right here. I'm so excited to dive into it. I would love for you to open up the conversation with when incorporating fasting, what are your biggest pillars to really focus on?
So in the book, I have a whole chapter on how do you build what I call a fasting lifestyle. So I would say my number one biggest pillar is that we have to incorporate some length fast into our other health habits. So regardless of how you eat or, where you are on the health spectrum, maybe you don't want to lose weight, and we can chat about like why there's so many other benefits to fasting. But the first pillar that I really believe is that everybody should be fasting. And then the second pillar would be, and we need to be varying our fasts, and we can talk about that. This is not an opportunity, like my whole YouTube channel was built off of what I call the O-Matters, the people who followed Jason Fung, and they became 1 meal a day people, and they got stuck. They got great results, and then they got stuck. So my second pillar is you got to vary your fast. And then, honestly, a pillar that's not talked about enough, and you're going to hear me talk about it more, is that we need to start doing health and community. So just, right now, just enjoying this conversation with you beautiful humans, we are exchanging oxytocin. And that is massively important to our hormonal health. So we can dismiss connection, we can dismiss community, but it actually has a really positive hormonal effect on us. And so I'm trying to bring community back into healthcare as well.
Yes, that's what we do. That's awesome.
Awesome. I love it. I can't tell which is the most important in our community, if it's the oxytocin from being each other in this tribalness, or if it's the fasting, or if it's the carnivore, but these are foundations for us. And so I get so excited hearing you talk about these things.
I mean, that's the thing about hormones is like, they're moving targets. So who knows what it is, but if, what I always say is if you guys gather as a group and people leave and they feel better, then you were hormonally helped. So, and it all starts with oxytocin, but community is just, we got to bring it back. I mean, we went through so much isolation in the pandemic. So I really think that should be the highlight of everybody's health habits.
And I love your talk about varying your fast. I'm a lot like that. I love seasonal fasts. Sometimes I don't fast for a whole quarter or 6 months.
Yeah. So you know what's interesting on the seasonal piece? At the core of everything I'm trying to teach through fasting is that this is how we're primally designed. Yes. So let's go way back to the cave person day. Like they didn't walk out of the cave and have a refrigerator or a pantry. There was no DoorDash to bring them food whenever they wanted. So there's this primal design that we've lost with our bodies. And when we look at the seasons, just the seasons alone, just look at what the earth is doing. In the summer, we have access to a lot more foods, whether you're carnivore or you're eating vegetables and fruit. There's more access in the summer. In the winter, they didn't have as much access to food. So they had to rely more on the ketogenic energy system. So I actually think like fasts or longer fasts are better in the winter time, because that's what humans were meant to be doing way back in the cave person day.
That's my fasting schedule, actually. Wintertime, as a matter of fact, I'm doing a 5-day right now. You know, it's strange, but right after the solstice, I feel like all of a sudden my hunger goes. But in the fall, though, my hunger rises.
You bring up such a good point, because I feel like we've also lost touch with the earth and how we are in sync with the earth. With women, I'm really been talking a lot on a lot of my platforms about how women who don't have a cycle or women who are postmenopausal, let's start timing everything to the moon. If you start chatting with a lot of women, women, if we didn't have all this blue light on us, most women would be ovulating at the full moon and the menstrual cycle would start at the new moon. But all this synthetic light has moved us out of that natural rhythm. So you really bring up a good point. When we tap in, what is it that why would you be more hungry in the fall? Well, you're getting ready for the winter. So your body's so smart that it's like, hey, let's eat more because winter's coming. And in the modern world, we call it woo woo, or we're like, how can that be? But we are so intimately connected to the earth and the seasons and the moon. And we got to bring that back too, because I love what you said. If you start to listen, you'll see that you're in this natural rhythm with the earth that is just beautiful.
For those who are not familiar with the cycle of the moon, how can we track that so it aligns?
It's such a fun question, because there's a lot of moon trackers. So like I have an app that I love called Moonly, and it tells me every day where we are in the phases of the moon. And then you can take that and map it to the fasting cycle, which I map out and fast like a girl. So the new moon would be day 1 of the fasting cycle. And then a full moon, if you just start there, you can work yourself around. And then the full moon is somewhere around day 12, right in the middle of ovulation. So for women that don't have a cycle, when they get the book, they just take the fasting cycle and they can look at the moon and then map it to that. I'm 53. I'm 90 days into the transition into menopause. Just when I think I'm fully going in, I'll get a period, but I've been using the moon for everything. I use it for how I want to work out. I use it for what I say, social events, what I say yes and no to, because I don't have a menstrual cycle that's predictable. So I map it to the moon, and we can talk about all that nuance. And sometimes it's easiest to just go around like a 28 or 30-day cycle to get the idea.
What I have found, Mindy, is fasting just opens up my intuition and my sensitivity to all of these things. And so we have found that when we have a schedule and we kind of create this schedule and have people play around with this, they do so many different variations that then they end up coming up with their own, is what happens after the period of time. Is that what you're seeing?
Yeah. And so in the book, I talk about N of 1, and we got to bring this back, especially for women, but both men and women benefit from this. We have gotten stuck in our healthcare system with a one size fits all. So, you have this symptom, I'm going to give you this diagnosis, I'm going to give you this treatment. And if the treatment doesn't work, we don't ever think to switch the diagnosis. We just go back, okay, let me give you this treatment. But when we look at a woman's body, a human body in general has a lot of variation, but a woman's body, oh my gosh, we are meant to ebb and flow. There is a time for us to really lean into longer fasts. And there's a time for us to not fast. And that's important to everybody, but it's more important to women.
Well, let's talk about that. Fasting for women. Please do share about the details.
Awesome. So let's go through what I call the fasting cycle. I'll kind of bring in where the moon is so that the postmenopausal women feel heard and have some action steps.
Yes.
So day 1, here's the first thing that I've been shocked in having so many women step into this fasting cycle is a lot of women don't know what day 1 is.
Yes.
So day 1 is when you have to use feminine care products. So if you spot, that's not day 1. But when you're actually flowing, that's day one. And you're like, okay, time to lean into whatever feminine care product that is of your choice. So at that moment, the hormones are at their lowest. And then over the next 10 days, estrogen is going to build. And if estrogen could talk to you, she would say, keep glucose low, keep insulin low. You can go into longer fasts. You can do all the hardcore cardio you want. This actually would be a phenomenal time to really lean into carnivore. And we can explain a little more about where I see carnivore in the ovulation window. Yes. But this is estrogen's glory. And estrogen's very forgiving of cortisol. So if stress happens, estrogen doesn't mind. But what she doesn't like is for glucose to be high. She doesn't like insulin to be high. A perfect example of this is the number one hormonal problem for women is PCOS. And women that are at the root of PCOS is insulin resistance. So they can't make enough estrogen to balance testosterone out. So those first 10 days of our cycle, we need to really focus on low glucose and low insulin so we can build estrogen. Carnivore shines there. Fasting shines. You want to do a 3-day water fast? Do it then. It's the perfect time. And then again, that would be day one would be the new moon. So it's the start of the new moon. So if you're a menopausal woman, just look at the new moon and go, okay, the first 10 days of that moon, I'm going to work on keeping my glucose and insulin low. When we move into ovulation, every woman ovulates at a different time, somewhere between day 11 and day 15. Then at this point, we've got 3 hormones that are showing up. So we've got estrogen at her peak. She's already built. She's at her peak. We've got testosterone coming in. And this is key because I think so many women don't understand this. And I think men don't understand this too. Men get testosterone every 15 minutes. Now, we can laugh at that, and be like, yeah, we've seen that. But it's really interesting because men are on a 24-hour cycle and we're on a 28, 30-day cycle. So our testosterone glory comes into ovulation, which if you stop to think about that, like why did the innate intelligence do that? Because we need libido high to procreate, bottom line. And then the other part of that is our testosterone gives us motivation. It gives us drive. So I called it in the book, the manifestation phase, because it's really the most powerful time of our whole cycle because we have estrogen at its peak and we've got testosterone at its peak. And then we have a little bit of progesterone. So progesterone calms us. But what's unique about progesterone is she doesn't want a lot of cortisol surges. She is not, when cortisol goes high, I always say progesterone becomes shy. So we've got to work during ovulation to not overdo it. Plus, with all those hormones, we have to remember that just because you produced a hormone doesn't mean you broke it down and made it usable for your body. So during that period, I really recommend that you focus on liver health and gut health. And I hope your listeners know this if they're carnivore fans, but I don't know a better strategy for upregulating T regulatory cells than the carnivore diet. So anybody that's got like an autoimmune condition that they can't turn off that overactive immunity, the carnivore diet, and I would go during ovulation, I would probably go strict carnivore. I know there's different variations of carnivore, but I would probably go really into meat only and stay away from anything else because you want to upregulate T regulatory cells so you can heal the gut and you can start to break those hormones down. Then when we come out of ovulation, everything dips again. So we've got day 16 to day 19, the hormones come crashing down. You can go back into some longer fasts. In ovulation, by the way, I think fasting should stay around 15 hours. I don't think you should do a big, long fast during ovulation, primarily because fasting can create this detox reaction and hormones coming in can create a detox reaction. So just a little nuance there. But post-ovulation, go back into longer fasts. Then the key is that when we hit about day 19, day 20, progesterone's coming in. And she's coming in a big way. So from day 19, 20 until you bleed, so until you actually have a cycle, for some of you, that'll be 8 days in. Some of you, it might be 10. We got to keep cortisol down. Now, if you are an expert faster and a 13-hour fast is totally good for you, you could probably throw a 12 to 13 hour fast in during that time. Only if you're an expert faster. If you're new to fasting, don't do that because it's going to raise cortisol and you're going to tank progesterone. And so, but we don't want cortisol to be high in any way, shape, or form. We also need glucose to be a little higher, which can be a little bit of a challenge with the carnivore diet. And, the carnivore is a form of keto. So we have to put it in that bucket. And during this time before you actually bleed, you might need a little more glucose to make progesterone really do her thing.
In carnivore, when we're kind of needing carbs for workouts or different things, some of us will actually rely on dairy or eggs because there are some carbs in those foods. And then I've also noticed that sometimes hunger will come up during that period as well. And so if we're just seeing the hunger rising, that a lot of our folks they'll just be eating more. And that will just be a time that is really a feasting time. Is that a strategy that could make sense for carnivores?
Yeah, as long as your glucose is going up and as long as you are having normal cycles, then you don't need to make a modification. But if you're missing your cycle, I really encourage you, or you're spotting, or you have really bad PMS symptoms, or you're really anxious, a lot of perimenopausal women because progesterone's naturally declining. You're really anxious during that time, then just watch glucose. We got to get glucose higher. And then the other thing I would say on that part of our cycle, which is so interesting because you ask any woman, she'll tell you that we bitch about how hungry we are the week before our period and how much we crave carbs. Well, that's progesterone. She's saying to you, give me more glucose. So if eating the dairy, eating the eggs pacifies her, you're not hungry, glucose is up, your cycle's normal, great. Hunger is not a lack of discipline during that time. It is progesterone like saying, hey, I need more so I can make an appearance and I can actually shed. When progesterone gets really high, it peaks, and that causes our uterine lining to shed. So when you're spotting, that just means that you're not getting enough progesterone to allow her to actually create a shed of that uterine lining.
I definitely notice an increase in appetite right before my period comes. Right. And for me, the fat was a game changer.
Yes.
So
let's talk about fat.
Let's talk about fat. Whenever I up the fats, and my favorite fats are just like fatty meats, butter, really fatty fish even. When I up the fats, I feel this calm and this satiation, and it helps me have like this really painless and pleasant cycle as well. So I would love to hear your opinion on how fat affects our hormones and our ability to fast.
Fat is a stabilizer of blood sugar. So blood sugar is not going to go up and down like this. It's going to stabilize things a lot more. It also nourishes our brain. It has a healing effect if you eat the right fat on our gut. So you need your hypothalamus pituitary to be at its prime. We have to think about what the brain needs fuel wise. And there are really like two things that the brain, well, three things, and carnivore fits nicely into this, that the brain needs fuel wise is it needs fat, like we're talking about. It needs amino acids, which you're going to get in protein, and it needs ketones. So when we are looking at that part, like this, the week before your period, okay, let's give it protein, let's give it fat so the hypothalamus and pituitary can do what it needs to do to orchestrate a natural cycle and good hormonal flow. Then when we go into the other parts of our cycle, let's now dip into ketones so you can give the brain ketones. But the week before your cycle, ketones, you don't want to be, that's not what the fuel is necessary for the brain, but the rest of the cycle it is. So it's really, fat to me is around brain health. It's about stabilization of blood sugar and insulin. So there's really no time in the cycle that you shouldn't be eating fat. I feel like everybody should be dipping into fat all the time. Well, we know blood sugar is going to be stable when you eat a lot of fat. So if your blood sugar is stable and you go into the fast, it's going to be way better for you. But the thing that's not talked about enough is that there's something called a fasted snack. And this is actually based off science. And what they did is it was metabolic measurements. So they were looking at glucose and they were looking at insulin. And they found that if you took two groups of people, one group, and they both went through a 15-hour fast, the group that went straight into 15 hours didn't have anything in that fasting window. Obviously, we know can lose weight, glucose can come down, insulin can come down. But the second group, what they did is at 13 hours, they gave them a fasted snack, which was a pure fat bomb. Mm-hmm. And their fat also kills hunger. So it actually will turn off the hunger hormone. So they were able to eat fat at 13 hours, killed hunger, allowed them to go 2 more hours of fasting. Then they measured all the metabolic markers and they found they got the same result. They got the same dip in glucose, the same dip in insulin. They also looked at weight loss, and they found that when people did that over time, having fat in their fasted window, that they actually could still get all the amazing benefits of a longer fast. But they were eating something. It's a fasted snack. Think of it like a stabilizer. It stabilizes everything so that you can go into these deeper fasts and get all the benefits that the deeper fasts give you.
We have found that so much. And we encourage folks to have a little bit of fats when they're doing more fasting. When they're first starting, we kind of like the water fasting, the shorter fast, but then that's a really great tool to work in there. We often get this question about the fats and the autophagy. Does it break that autophagy, or how does it play into that?
Yeah. So autophagy, I love it. You're like speaking my language. I'm like, oh, this is amazing. Let's just dive. Hopefully everybody knows what autophagy is. But here's what's interesting about autophagy. Autophagy kicks in when 2 things happen. We have to have blood sugar go down and we have to have nutrients go down. So we've got to have amino acids go down, vitamins, minerals, because the body has to sense no food's coming in, no nutrients are coming in. I got to build myself stronger. And so when you are fasting, it usually happens around 17 hours. I think of it like a dimmer switch where you're starting to turn up autophagy. Somewhere between 17 and 72 hours is going to be where autophagy really builds. And let's say you want to try a 36-hour fast. If you bring fat in at that point that doesn't have any protein in it, so this is the hardest thing. You're going to have to find something that doesn't have too many vitamins and too much protein to be able to keep you out of autophagy. So you can't spike amino acids. So bone broth wouldn't really be a good option. This is why bone broth fasting isn't really like, it's great for the gut, but it's not great for autophagy because it'll bring those aminos up and pull you out of autophagy. Mm-hmm. So autophagy, remember, it's not just the blood sugar, it's also the nutrients.
So we do butter. We do in our gang, we're
amazing
butter gal.
And then take a stick and
that's right.
That's exactly.
Really?
Yes, literally.
What we do. Literally what we do. It's simple.
We actually started incorporating fat fasting for the first time within our this month. And Emily here, she came up with all of these beautiful, delicious fat snacks that are not just plain butter, because it's so boring for a lot of newcomers. So maybe Emily, you can share with Dr. Pelz some of your favorite fat snacks.
Oh, absolutely. And we do the same thing that you're talking about. We limit protein. So protein's way, 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 way down. But then we do 100% fat snacks that are like your beef trimmings in the air fryer. And then a huge thing that we do is brown butter. I don't know if your group loves that, but
tell me what brown butter is.
Oh, Mindy. Oh, brown butter. I'll make some for you.
Yeah, please. I love this.
Yes. And so you just take butter and you get it to this simmer point and it just changes the entire texture of it. You refrigerate it or freeze it. It sets up just like chocolate. And so I keep them in the freezer and they're just browned butter bites. And we just use those during fast, and the little tiny bit of protein browns in it and gives it this salty and this nutty kind of a texture. So yeah, it's fantastic.
Fat fasting it kills hunger. I mean, and then I don't know if you guys have noticed this, and it doesn't spike blood sugar. So you're still fasting. Mm-hmm. But I have found that the only problem is it just gets boring. And then the other piece is that you're going to start to see really clearly if you did like a 3-day fat fast, you would see really clearly where you use food, because a lot of times we use food for a dopamine hit. We don't use food because we're hungry. So when you're eating fat, it kills hunger. And now you're left with, wait, I'm hungry. No, I'm not hungry. I'm bored. And so you're like, you have to your mind starts to reveal to you where food comes in and how you use it.
I did want to share a little bit about the Steak and Butter Gang and our absolute passion and love for fasting. My amazing coaches here, Emily and Raymond, teach feasting and fasting classes every single week in the community. And I wanted them to just talk a little bit about what is, included, what we do in the gang.
Bella, I'm so excited. Our program has just been developing and growing and getting stronger and stronger. We have the 90-day program, which is based on water fasting, chisel. We've been developing that for a year and a half now. Now we have added fat fasting. So we have a totally enhanced version, a different version that people can try if they are really wanting to work in that butter and that fat, just as Dr. Pelz talked about us, how helpful that is. Yes. So yeah, we have so many tools. We are teaching these classes several hours every week. They're all recorded. We have a written version. It's just a wonderful group to be in if you are curious about the healing powers of fasting.
The coaches, they record their classes, so you can watch the playbacks. They also go through schedules. So if you need that hand holding, something concrete to follow, they give out schedules too.
I've learned a lot from the community because doing it in group is a whole different story. We learned the nuances of following a group schedule, and we've learned a lot along the way. It's not really about the fast. It's about how you're doing through the fast. And we really honor that. The schedule is there as a guidance, as a strengthener. We watch ourselves fast. We watch ourselves properly eat carnivore. And we notice the marriage between those is what really makes the power. So in other words, I couldn't do this or learn this part without community. So I want to see you guys here and keep on helping us out. All of this is not just about us guiding, it's about you too.
There are so many different ways for people to share their successes. And when they share their successes, we all get better and we all learn more. And when we're having issues, we problem solve them together. So this is a perfect opportunity to not feel alone. We feel so connected. Yeah. And so we feel connected in the things that we're winning in. We get all those happy hormones in our system because of that. And we feel connected in our struggles. And we talk about all of them. And so this is an incredible community to be a part of.
So that brings up a great conversation here. Fat fast versus water fasting. What's your preference?
Well, I like water fasting just because it's the way my mind works. I'm like, I just need to know that food's off the table. Like when I go into a 3-day water fast, it's just like, okay, here we go. And there's a very internal thing for me where it's like me getting to know my body. There's a tremendous amount of insight and spiritual growth that can happen in these longer fasts. And I feel like if I get a little bit hungry and I'm like, okay, I could go have fat, that there may be a moment of growth, mental growth, spiritual growth that I would miss out on, because you get some really deep insight in these water fasts. So much so that I often, if I have a problem I can't solve and my brain is like looping on it, I'll go into a 3-day water fast. And usually that first day, the mind is like talking at you. The second day, it's a little quiet. By the third day, everything just calms down in the mind. And you get so much, insight into how to solve that problem. It's happened to me so many times.
Wow. Dr. Pelz, how often do you incorporate 3-day fasts? Do you just do it whenever you feel like it?
Yeah. Sometimes I literally am moved to do it and I'll wake up one day and be like, okay, we're going to do this now. Wow. So I listen to my body, but I would say the most common times that I will do a 3-day water fast are January and September. And the reason for that is these are big routine change times. Like you're coming off a routine change. So the holidays, a lot of people go into excess. I also love to start the new year off with like setting intentions and clarity of what I want my year to be and like unwinding whatever happened during the holidays. So I look at it as an ultimate reset. And then summer's the same thing. Summer is where, we have gone on vacation, our patterns have changed. So I look at September as a way to kind of ground myself with a 3-day water fast. And then, last year I just was moved to do more. So I ended up doing 4 3-day water fasts. I did one in the spring, one in the summer, and it's just, I was called to do it.
I agree completely. I feel like sometimes the fast leads me and the fast is, and it well just feels so good.
And, back to how we started this discussion, it's when we stop getting caught up in the dogma of nutrition and what we're supposed to do. And we can just take, like, if you guys love carnivore and it's working for you, and you pair that to fasting, now find your natural rhythm with it and give your body the opportunity to tell you what it needs. When we push through what the body's telling us, we're now start to end up into a much more what I call masculine approach to our healthcare, which is a very push on through, I got to do this. And we lose touch of that intuition that makes us, as women, we have, makes us magical. And so what I like is to really, when the fast calls you, I love the way you said that, to just listen and go, okay, here we go, and jump into that. And that's really where I see when we do that, we can bring more of the feminine into healthcare, and we can marry the masculine and the feminine, which is really what's needed right now for both men and women.
Well, how do you deal with critique that, people saying fasting is not safe, it's going to mess up your hormones, cause hair loss? What are your thoughts about that?
I always say, give me the biggest critic and I'll stand right next to them and explain exactly why fasting is great for everybody. So the first thing I want everybody to know is your body was born to fast. In fact, as humans, we would not have survived if our bodies couldn't handle fasting. There's a concept that I talk about in the book, which is called the thrifty gene hypothesis. And this was a hypothesis that the humans that evolved out of those primal days all had one similar genetic profile. And that was, we were able to go without food for long periods of time. And that because of that, those humans evolved, and they believe that today that gene is in all of us. I've actually have a genetic specialist looking into the actual name of that gene. So as soon as we get it, I'll let you know. But if that's true, now it's a hypothesis. If that's true, if we are eating all day long, even if we're eating great food or doing the carnivore and we're doing it all day long, we are actually going against our genetic design, because our genetic design is to have these gaps of food, of absence of food. So if we eat all day long, you're working against your body. So that would be the first thing. Second thing, my gosh, you need to go look at the science on fasting if you're a critic. And in the book, I lay out 6 different length fasts. I highlight the science on fasting. I explain the why you would want to do each length fast. So I would say really get to know the science before you become a critic of it. And then the third thing is, I would say, go to my YouTube channel and read the comments. One of the things that has shocked me is that we've had over the last 5 years, there's almost 30 million views on my YouTube channel. Wow. And I literally have a team of people that answer these questions, thousands of comments that come in every day. I can tell you from watching millions of people fast, the amount of people that I don't even know, they're on social media. I just see their name, that have been able to get off medication, lose massive amounts of weight, and be able to really thrive with their health. It's insane. So don't knock it till you try it. And to the critic for women, that's why I wrote Fast Like a Girl, is because I got so tired of mainstream media grabbing onto the critics that are saying women shouldn't fast. That's not right. Women just need to fast differently.
Yes. Yes.
So I'll take any critic, bring them on, because I there is no doubt in my mind, because I've just witnessed it and I know the science, and it heals. And we've got, the other thing is that we need a tool that's free. We can't make healthcare be expensive. If we're going to solve the metabolic syndrome problem, 16% of Americans are 12% of Americans are metabolically healthy. That's dismal. Right. When we go back and we look at why COVID took over the world, it's because the world is metabolically unhealthy. So now we can't say, well, only the people that can afford organic and hormone-free meats, they're the ones that are going to be healthy, and everybody else, so sorry. So we've got to help the single mom that's working 2 jobs and raising a family. How does she get metabolically healthy? Well, that's where fasting comes in, because she can do it. And what do we do about the busy CEO that's like, oh, no, I don't have time to be healthy. Okay, let's show him or her how to fast. So yeah. Bring the critics on. I'll take them on any day.
We believe in fasting. We believe it strengthens us, and it's like a training. We look at it as like a physical training. That's how we compare it to all the time.
Yep.
So we do hit the common questions. We run fasting groups several hours every week in our challenges, and so we get the same questions that you get. So I'm just going to hit you with some of them.
Great.
So great. And you too, Raymond. Let's just chime in the things that we get, week after week after week. What about sleep? What do you recommend when people are having sleep issues with their fasting?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. I mean, if you're a woman, I would say, time your fast accordingly. When progesterone's coming in the week before your period and during ovulation, progesterone is going to control sleep. So if you're fasting and glucose is too low, it may be just that you maybe need to, maybe don't fast during that time, fast at the other moment. So that would be the first thing. The second thing, and I can't find any literature on this, but it really makes the most clinical sense to me, is that we have to look at fasting as healing. It's not a diet, even though a lot of people use it as a diet. You are putting your body in a healing state. Yes. And when you put your body in a healing state, it might not need as much sleep, because sleep is healing as well. Yeah. So, when I go into 3-day water fasts, I wake up at 2-3 in the morning. I do that's when I'll go and write. So it's not like your body's doing anything wrong. It might actually be like, I've done a lot of healing today. My mitochondria are powered up. Let's go and do something.
Awesome. What about feeling cold and having the chills? Is that normal?
Very normal. Very normal. I also cannot find the explanation behind that. But what I do think happens is, this is the way I feel it. And you guys probably feel this too when you fast. It's like, when you're eating, you're like, the noise of the world is like, so like all over you, right? Like, it's just like in your head, and like you're in this doer mode. And when you fast, there feels like there's this energy constriction. And I say this in a beautiful way, like you come back to the center of you. And I believe that what the body will do is it'll put all its resources when we're fasting into the most important organs. So it'll put it into the heart and lung, and it'll put it into the brain. So the limbs are not an important organ when you're fasting. So if it needs more blood flow in those areas, it's going to pull the blood in, just like when you go out, when you do a cold plunge, it's going to pull the blood into those organs that are so necessary, and make sure that they have what they need. Wow. So I think there's an energetic piece, and then I think it's part of the survival mechanism that kicks in when we fast.
Starvation versus fasting. We actually make sure that the person is well nourished before going into any fast. Yeah. What's your talk about that?
There's 2 ways to go into a fast. You can be strategic, and I recommend in the book I have a 2-week pre-fast regime. I call it a pre-reset, so that people can line themselves up to succeed. And
2 weeks.
Yeah, it's 2 weeks, and it's changing food, and it's compressing your eating window. So it's just like a general, like, let's like get ourselves into this. So I think that it's really important that you understand that you need to be well nourished, to your point, going into that fast. So you can be strategic and eat. Well, I guess you guys are doing carnivore. Make sure you're eating enough before you go in. Make sure you have enough fat going in. The other way I've seen people do is they're like, and your group probably is not doing this, but they're like, I'm going to eat whatever I want, and then I'll fast on Monday morning. And I always think, yeah, you could do that. Monday and Tuesday are going to be pretty brutal. It's too extreme. So what you do going in matters. And then the last thing I would say is, fasting is not starvation. So we have to look at it as just like a gentle hormetic stress. You're saying to your body, I am going to pull this food source out, and I know you're going to build me stronger. So when we look at something like a 3-day water fast, you're not starving. You're actually tapping into your natural ability of the cells to build themselves stronger. And in 3 days, you are going to get intestinal stem cells to repair your gut. You're going to get, your body's going to burn more fat. You're going to get crazy amounts of testosterone and growth hormone. You're going to reboot your whole dopamine system so that you're going to get new dopamine receptor sites, and you're going to totally reset your immune system. And you're going to get a massive flood of stem cells systemically when you get to that 72-hour mark. So that's not starvation. That is healing magic at its best, in my opinion.
Wow. Absolutely. Mindy, I have a few more while you're here. I could talk to you about this like all day long. Okay. So are there some who should not fast in terms of pregnancy, lactation, trying to get pregnant? And are there any like underweight? Are there some issues like that you just kind of steer clear? How do you deal with those issues?
Yeah, thank you for asking this, because I think it's an important question. For starters, if you're pregnant, fasting is not your tool. You can use other tools. And I always say you're going to pass your microbiome down to your child. So work on improving your microbial health, because that's going to come out in breast milk. That's going to be in skin contact. So there's other cool things you can work on, but no fasting unless you're like in those early stages and you're throwing up, then, that's just natural. That's the way it is. But you want to make sure you eat and plenty of protein for sure. With nursing, I don't want women to do more than 15 hours of fasting with nursing, because once you trigger autophagy, what autophagy often does is it will actually take old cells. We call these senescent cells that are dysfunctional, and it'll get rid of those. And it does that through our lymphatic system, getting these old cells that might have viruses and bacteria in them and toxins in them. And I'll put it into the lymph, and then that lymph goes into your breast milk and goes into your baby. So let's keep fasts around 15 hours. The other one that I wrote about in the book is eating disorders. So if you have an eating disorder, I've seen this change your relationship to food. Like, I'm not saying don't fast, but you need somebody guiding you through the process so that you know when to stop. And you know where you're safe and you're not safe. So those are kind of the three that I say. Now, there are modifications to, like, adrenal fatigued people need to be a little slower with how they go into fasting. And then people who have any kind of thyroid problem, when you eat, you need to eat. The fasting, the way I advocate, is not calorie restriction. It is time restriction. So if you know you have a thyroid problem, when you open up that eating window, eat. You might have to eat even though you're not hungry, because you got to get those calories up. Now, the cool thing about carnivore is it's calorie dense. So for thyroid, it should be okay. But I watch a lot of women go into their fasting lifestyle. They lose weight. They feel amazing. They have a thyroid problem. They're not eating enough, and their hair's falling out. Like, that's because you didn't eat enough in your eating window. It wasn't because of fasting.
That's what we see time and time again with hair loss, and almost always it's under eating.
Yeah, for hair loss, it's, you got to eat more, and then look at your mineral load. Make sure you're adding minerals in. You need minerals to grow hair, and then toxins. A lot of times there is a detox reaction with fasting, and things like heavy metals are going to be pushed out of the cells. And oftentimes there's nowhere for those heavy metals to go. So they can start to affect mineral balance. So you could use binders like activated charcoal to, like, make sure that you're grabbing those heavy metals. But, we should be thinking of fasting like a mirror. Whatever's showing up when you're fasting is telling you what you need to work on. So if you're getting a lot of diarrhea or constipation, you've got some gut health to work on. If you're losing your hair, you've got maybe a thyroid issue that you've got to work on, or a mineral deficiency, or a toxic load issue. If you're getting rashes, or you're gaining weight, or you have brain fog, we got to start looking at your detox pathways. What's the body's letting go of? It can't let go of it, so it's sticking to you. And again, I talk about all of that in the book, but it's really important that what I really want to get out there to the world is that when these adverse things show up, it's a gift. And what the media, what a lot of people want to do is go, oh, well, fasting's not for me. It doesn't work for me. That would be like saying sleep doesn't work for you. Sleep works for everybody, but not everybody can sleep. Fasting works for everybody, but not everybody has the same rhythm with fasting. So that's why you got to find your path.
Speaking of starting the carnivore diet, I thought I would share with you guys some of my favorite things to order from Thrive Market. I order their ghee over and over again just because I love the flavor. I eat very high fat and their ghee is extremely high quality. This is probably my 5th or 6th tub by now, and I stock up every time they have deals and sales, which they have very frequently. I also love getting their beef sticks, and this is from their very own brand, Thrive Market themselves, and it's original flavor, paleo, gluten-free. It's actually carnivore friendly because it's just grass-fed beef, sea salt, and some spices. Steak and Butter Guy loves these beef sticks, so I order them a lot, and as you can see, there's only 2 sticks left here. These are just great because they're so convenient and delicious. The next thing that I got is from their Rosy line. So this is their laundry detergent, but it's in a powder form, and I love this because it is no mess. You just take the little scooper, put the powder in your laundry, and you are set. Everything from their Rosy lines has 0 harsh chemicals, synthetic fragrances, clean ingredients, and has 0 dyes. I also got the same exact product just in liquid form. So this is just their liquid laundry detergent. Again, in lavender scent. You get 100 loads per bottle. But if you really want the best bang for your buck, I would just get the powdered version. Next thing that I got are these 2 bottles of shampoos. And this is from their very own Faye line. Their Faye line includes all personal care items. So shampoos, body wash, soaps, conditioners, all of those types of products. And I really love their shampoos because, again, 0 harsh chemicals, 0 synthetic fragrances and dyes. It's also free of parabens, sodium lauryl sulfates, and it doesn't irritate my scalp at all. It's very gentle and it is effective. And the last thing that I got is just a whole thing of toilet paper. They call it bath tissue. It's made from bamboo and recycled post-consumer paper. They get the job done. My experience every time ordering from Thrive Market has been excellent. They ship quickly and straight to your door, so it's very convenient. But my favorite part about shopping from Thrive is the deals, the budget-friendly savings, and the discounts that you can get. As a carnivore, I also really appreciate that within their app, you can filter out certain diets that you do not want to see products from. So for example, I have 0 interest in the vegan diet. Anything that's processed has sugar, has gluten, all of those bad things. So I filter all of my searches to just the keto diet. And although the keto diet is not 100% carnivore, it actually gives you many, many great results, snacks, food options that are carnivore friendly. So that filter feature is extremely convenient and time-saving. If you are interested in shopping from Thrive Market, you all can get 30% off your first order and a free gift worth up to $60. Just go to the URL shown on the screen, thrivemarket.com/steakandbuttergal, or click the link down below in the description box if you want a clickable link. The biggest, most popular goal, fat loss, weight loss, body recomposition, especially in our community, it's one of the most popular goals. So what are some of the best ways we can implement fasting, maybe lengths of fasting that can promote fat loss best?
Oh my gosh, I love this question. I've been on a lot of interviews recently for the book coming out, and I haven't talked about this, and it's such a good little nuance. So a couple years ago, well, about 5-6 years ago, we started something called Fast Training Weeks with our Resetter Collaborative. It's a free fasting group on Facebook. I came up with a concept that I call carnivore fasting, where you are doing 17 hours of fasting. So you're triggering autophagy so that the body can start to heal and repair. But then you're coming in immediately following it with the carnivore diet, which is stimulating mTOR. But let me tell you, there was some nuance that we did. And this is what I would encourage you all to do. I didn't get to write about this in the book, so I want you all to do it and then report back to me. And I'll tell you what happened to my community. Is that when you go to break that fast, you want to make sure that you have at least 30 grams of protein at that break fast meal. You can go, and you can go more, but don't go more than 90 grams of protein, because once you go more than 90, you really start to spike glucose. But at that break fast meal, do 30 grams at least of protein, and you trigger an amino acid receptor site in the muscle that builds the muscle stronger. Now, here's what happens. When you build muscle, you create more insulin receptors. So you actually are becoming more insulin sensitive just by starting to flood your body with amino acids using the 30-gram principle after you've stimulated autophagy with fasting. Now, if you want to take it even a next step, what the research is showing is something called protein cycling. where every 2 to 3 hours, you do another 30 grams of protein. And you trigger that amino acid, trigger mTOR again. And if you take that eating window and every 2 to 3 hours, you can do more. If you want to do 60 grams of protein, you can do that. But every 2 to 3 hours, you're giving yourself another dose of protein, then you actually will start to build muscle stronger, which is going to help you burn fat. Autophagy helped you get rid of the excess. And so when you marry those principles together, you are going to burn more fat, not just in that fast, but long term. And this is what we saw when I rolled this fast out. People were like, in a 5-day period, I think the average weight loss in 5 days was 8 pounds in 5 days. So, and people were like reporting, like, I haven't been able to lose weight, and now I'm finally losing weight. So it's the little twists and strategies and looking again at how the body wants to be treated and looking at the science. And when you can marry all those principles together, you'll lose weight much quicker.
Wow, that's fascinating.
Yeah, so try it and let me know.
Yeah, we will. You need to be our friend for a long, long time.
I would love that. I would love that. I would love that. It's really that I want people to believe in their bodies again. And we've just been taught, we've been led a lie that when symptoms show up, we got to medicate it. When you're gaining weight, it's because you're aging or it's a genetic thing. You know, weight, let's break down weight for a moment. Weight, when you look at that fat in the mirror, what your brilliant body did is it said, I have a lot of excess. I have excess glucose. I have excess hormones. I have excess toxins. Where am I going to put this? And so it has to make a decision. You're always programmed for survival. So putting it in your heart and lungs, putting it in your liver is not its first choice. Putting it in your brain wouldn't make sense. So fat was created as a storage place for all this excess. So if you're trying to lose weight, another key is look in the mirror and thank your fat. Your body put it there to save your life. Yes. And now when you start to do something like carnivore fasting, you're saying, okay, body, I'm ready to release this. And I'm going to use the principles that I know you thrive with to allow you to let that go. But when we go in and as women, we do this so much where we go into guilt and we go into shame and we go into rigidity and I got to muscle my way through it. And I think why fasting has sustained the last, the last 7 years and is just gaining momentum is finally people are finding a rhythm that works to release that weight, because I think it's the only way to release the weight is to pair whatever diet you're doing with fasting.
Absolutely.
You've just taught us so much here. And our members are so blessed that you're going to come back in January. Yes. You're going to be our guest speaker. You are going to love our members and they are going to absolutely love you and the warrior work that you are doing. You're an amazing healer in this world. And I am so thankful that you have this passion and are carrying it forth.
This is the best way to start a day. Thank you so much.
We love you.
And to your point, thank you for the kind words. I received them and I appreciate them. And this is my dream, is working with people like you and getting the message out. Yes. The world is in a chronic health problem and we need tools like fasting, like carnivore. We need to bring them to the surface and we need to break apart the dogma of nutrition. And I can't do that on my own. So when I hear that you guys have created groups and you're amplifying my message and then putting some other messages on there, we're all in this together. So, and when we can get the world metabolically healthy, I promise you, we will not worry about another pandemic, because at the root of a really good immune system is metabolic health. It's at the root of everything. So I appreciate you guys, because I'm just one voice. So I need the more voices that can amplify the message, the better.
You got it. We're in this together. Beautiful.
Agreed.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much, Dr. Pelz. Yes,
thank you guys. I can't wait to come back. Appreciate you.
Well, Dr. Pelz, before we wrap up, please do share where people can find you, how they can support you, and talk about your new book.
Thank you for asking that. Fast Like a Girl. It's out. And I really hope you go and buy it. And I actually am encouraging men to go buy it as well.
Oh, yeah, I'll be buying it.
The book is the first only, and this is shocking, women's fasting manual. There is no book written for women with these 6 different length fasts showing them how to time it to their hormones depending on where they are on their journey. So, so I hope you all love it. So fastlikeagirl.com. Otherwise, YouTube is my passion project. I have a ton of great videos there. I'm going to be doing a lot more on my YouTube in the coming months on neurotransmitters and how we can bring up neurotransmitter production. So you can go find me there, but I'm all over the place.
Everything is linked down below in the description box. Please open it up, click on the links, and order Dr. Pelz's book. Thank you so much again, Dr. Pelz, for your time. This was amazing.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate you.
Dr. Mindy Pelz will also visit the Steak and Butter Gang as one of 6 amazing guest speakers to celebrate January 2023 and World Carnivore Month. So if you have personal questions about fasting, carnivore, hormones, healing, anything at all for Dr. Pelz, please come join us in the next January 30-Day Carnivore Challenge so that you have access to all live Zoom calls, guest Q&As, and the Feasting Fasting 90-Day Fat Loss Program. For all the details on what the challenge includes and how you can sign up, go to the link down below in the description box or go to the URL shown on the screen, spgmeetup.com. And if you guys want a convenient and cheap place to get all of your carnivore snacks, groceries, and household supplies, check out Thrive Market. Click the link down below in the description box. I wish you all the happiest new year, and I will see you in my next video. SPG out.